never traded it all.
So welcome back, everyone. We're live on Facebook as well with everyone. So hi out there. Follow us. Tell everybody about it. Like us and all that kind of stuff. And if you're listening and you want to call in, you can call in too. I'm going to go in with my next guest who has been on with me once before. I have with me Rob Young, and he is the owner of Blue Dot Wealth Management. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Carol. It's great to be back.
You know what? You got to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what Blue Dot Wealth Management is all about.
Yeah, so I grew up in Yuma, Arizona.
We have a lot of Arizonians today.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's a good thing. I grew up in Yuma, Arizona. I joined the Army right out of high school. I went to NAU up in Flagstaff, and after that I moved down to the Valley. I've been here for the last 20 years and have and lived in Gilbert, which is a great place to live. Love it. I've spent 20 years in the financial services industry. Almost 13 of that was at Merrill Lynch, and about a year and a half ago, I decided to start my own firm, Blue Dot Wealth Management, and here we are.
And why Blue Dot? Why did you name it that?
I grew up as a pretty big science nerd, and I loved Carl Sagan's Cosmos in 1980. That left a big impact on me. And in 1990, as the Voyager spacecraft was getting ready to leave the solar system, Carl Sagan lobbied to turn that spacecraft around and take a picture of Earth from about 3.7 billion miles away. And when they did that, there was just this one little pale blue pixel in this big sea of black. And really, to me, that really symbolizes that, we're really all in this together. And that's really a founding creed, a founding value to the firm, is that we're all in this together.
And what's good about science nerds is they're good with money and they're good with numbers.
Yes,
right?
That is true.
That's really, really big. Now, here's something I really can't wait to talk about. When I saw it on your list of questions, I smiled. You didn't know what I was smiling at. Maybe you did. What is a capitalist hippie?
Yes. So I believe, and the data really bears this out, that companies that do good actually return more value to shareholders, right? So oftentimes, we think about investments and it's just numbers on the page, but companies that actually stay out of the news, that don't have lawsuits, that don't have big environmental impact disasters, those kinds of companies actually return more value to shareholders over time. So part of my investment process is helping weed out a lot of those bad actors from clients' portfolios. And that's one form of risk management that I take that is really different than a lot of other people. It's really, it really does work when you take, like I said, when you take the bad actors out.
Now, you do free consultations.
I do.
Now, when you meet with people, how does it work? Because, within your industry, it's very important. This is a relationship-based business. That's why they got to hear a little bit about you.
Sure.
Right? And so when you work with them, how do you do that?
Well, we just really, our first conversation is all about them, right? Where they are, what their goals are, what they're looking to accomplish, what their value systems are like, what kind of legacy they want to leave behind. Those kinds of things are really important. We spend a lot of time talking about attitudes about money because that's really important, right? Most of us are controlled by attitudes that sometimes we've not necessarily taken a lot of self-reflection to figure out yet. So we want to make sure that we have a good baseline for where people are before we do anything else.
Right. Now, so you do free consultations. Your website is blue.wealthmanagement.com. And when they call, they can call the office, correct?
Correct.
So that phone number is 480-256-2384. And I'm not sure whether you're doing anything special right now, but we can talk about that at the break, because I think I forgot to ask about that. I'm not sure what you want to do. But why then should somebody hire a financial planner?
Well, I can give you a ton of reasons, but let's talk about 5, because that seems like a good enough answer. So the first, I think, is that we typically ask questions that clients don't want to answer, right? We talk about what ifs. We talk about legacy. We talk about what happens when you pass. Those kinds of things are sometimes uncomfortable, and a lot of people just don't want to talk about that. The second one, we create a financial plan. and not one that you just kind of do once and forget about. I talked to a lot of people that sat down with a planner 10 years ago and have not reviewed that. And every single person that I sit down with has had some form of major life event happen, not just in the last 10 years, but sometimes in the last 2 or 3 or 5 years, right? So that financial plan should be a living, breathing plan, and it's not necessarily always treated that way. Number 3 would be identifying risks that you might be looking past. Sometimes it's market related, sometimes it's not, but that's a big one. Number 4, I spend a lot of time with, and that is talking people through market volatility. When 2008, 2009 happened, most of my conversations were something along these lines. People would call in, they said, Rob, I'm really worried that I think the world is going to end, and I would ask them to go to their window, look out the window, and see if the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse were walking down the street. And typically they would say, no, they're not. So a lot of times market volatility is going to happen, and we want to be prepared for it. But it's not necessarily something that always people need to be worried about. And the last one would be to help identify biases, right?
Well, let's also do this, though, because it is the beginning of a new year, and a lot of people are really worried. You know, what is going on in the market right now? What are your thoughts about this new year? Yeah,
so I try not to get into the prediction game, right? Because I think on some level it's a fool's errand, right? However, you know, the things that I like to focus on are somebody's long-term strategy. All of that being said, the big thing I think that most investors can be fairly sure of this year is that inflation is going to start to come back into the market. We have had a number of manufacturing data points that show that things like lumber are increasing in value. Oil looks like it might be creeping back up again. We have a very tight labor market. Unemployment is somewhere in the ballpark of around 4.3, 4.2%. That means that we might be seeing wage pressure come into the market, which is good if you're working, obviously. But all of that has a cumulative effect. And so inflation is the big thing I think that most people should be watching, that probably most people won't be watching.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, it's a new year and everybody kind of wants to know. It's kind of a little bit. But you're also right that there are a lot of people out there that, they might have had somebody do some kind of a plan for them a long time ago, and that they need a second set of eyes. They do need to be looked at quite a bit, not just one time and then that's it.
Right.
Too many things do change. You could check him out on his website. He does free consultations. The website is blue.wealthmanagement.com. The phone number to call is 480-256-2384. And the kind of people that you work with, here's another thing about people that when we talk about financial advisors, they always think that you have to have a lot of money in order to work with someone like you. Well, who's your client?
Yeah, so I have 5 rules. We talked about this last time, right?
I remember the 5 rules.
Yeah. So the 5 rules are, number 1, you have to know you need advice, right? If you don't think you need advice, then there's really no point in us talking. Number 2 is you have to be willing to pay for that advice. Number 3 is when we create a plan, you have to stick to the plan, right? That's the whole point of creating it in the first place. Number 4 is you can't be a jerk. Life is too short to work with people that you don't like. And number 5 is you have to be willing to leave a legacy for your family or for your community. That's something that is really important to me, and I want to work with people that have that same set of values.
How old is your client?
My
typical.
Yeah, I would say anywhere from the ages of 45 to 65 is where most of my clients are at.
Right. So because a lot of people need to start, there's a lot of baby boomers that listen to this show, this station, and some of them have money, and a lot of people out there, you need to make sure that you get some sort of advice and then find out where you want to go from there. He does free consultations. You can't be a jerk, he says. But the number one thing is that you need to know that you want to get this advice, and I think that's the most important thing. So again, you can check him out on his website. It's blue.wealthmanagement.com. You can also call him direct. That number, it's 480 602-256-2384. Let's talk about you real quickly, just to give them one reason, because then we're going to come back and I want to talk further about you too. Why someone should hire someone like you?
Well, that's a great question. I think really what it boils down to is people end up having life events happen. Life happens, and a lot of times you just need guidance. You need a sounding board. You need somebody that is impartial. And that is one of the many services that I help provide people, is being able to listen to them, being able to listen to their concerns, and then being able to help them craft a plan that will help them get to where they want to go.
Well, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, I want to talk further about something that's going on for 2018. Well, we get more of that, and we're going to go ahead and open up the lines too for people to call in just a little bit. Our number here is 602-277-5369. Check him out on his website. It's blue.wealthmanagement.com, and give us a call here too.
For trading it all.
Welcome back. So we've been talking a little bit at the break about the new year, and there's new tax laws and this and that. So really important. So, and I think a lot of people are what I call on spilkas with it, because we don't know what's going on. So help us, Rob. Let's help us first understand it.
Yeah. So I think anybody that has followed this, got a lot of information in a very, very short period of time. Some of that information ended up being right, and some of it ended up being wrong because they were changing the law really up until the very last second that it was passed. I think that there are the one thing that they intended to do was to broaden the base and make taxes simpler. And most of the CPAs that I've talked to have basically said that the opposite is really going to be the case. So it really is important if you are a small business owner or really, frankly, it doesn't really matter. Anybody is going to really need to sit down with an accountant, with a CPA going into 2018 and talk about how they may be impacted. Most people will be in some way, shape, or form. It might be good and it might be bad, but people will want to be able to sit down with somebody and chat about that. The two things I think most people that are investors will run into that are one's a pro and one's a con. The first is on college savings plans, 529 plans. In the past, 529 plans were used strictly for college. That was it. You saved money up, and then when your kids went to college, you pulled money out of those 529 plans. You can now actually use those 529 plans for private school tuition for K through 12. So if you have gifted money to your children, or your parents or grandparents have gifted money to your children and you want to send them to a private school, that money can now be used for that before they actually get to college. Now that's a real positive if you have the money in those plans. But if you're wanting to set aside money specifically for that, that's definitely a reason to sit down with somebody like myself to really evaluate the pros and cons of how long you're leaving that money in so that you can take advantage of the tax savings there. One that might be a negative for people, and probably not a lot of people will appreciate this quite yet, but I think it will become more of a big deal. A lot of people have traditional IRAs that they want to convert over to a Roth IRA. And you were allowed under the old rules to change your mind up until a certain point. If you converted it and then you decided, nope, I don't want to convert it anymore, I don't want to pay the taxes or what have you, you were able to do so. That ability to change your mind has been eliminated under the new tax law. And so if somebody wants to do a conversion from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, that is something that people really do need to talk through and make sure that they have the money set aside to pay for the taxes if they indeed do want to go down that road.
So there's a lot of different things that are happening that people just need to talk to someone like you about, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And again, if you do not have one, it is very important to do that. And there's a lot of people out there that just put their heads in the sand, or they just don't think that they don't have enough money to do it. They don't think that that they do, but anybody should.
Absolutely. I mean, every journey starts with a single step, right? So if you feel like you don't have enough money to save, or that you don't know where to start, it's just a conversation, right? And my goal is to help people get to where they want to get to, and in the most efficient way possible.
But also to leave that legacy, to have something to leave.
Absolutely. And it doesn't matter how big that legacy is. If we are working together well and we're doing our job right, then you're going to have something left behind. And it might as well go to the people that you love or the organizations that you care about, and really have an impact in the future.
Now, for the new laws that are in effect, okay, they should talk to you when? Now? Or, you know, or do you know what I'm saying? I mean, is it what happened from last year is don't worry about, or this year?
As people are putting their taxes together this year, all of the rules that we are used to, which were still complex, but we were used to those rules. All of those rules are still in effect. But as you go into 2018, if you're a business owner, as an example, meals and entertainment are no longer deductible. So if that was a big part of your write-off, then that is something that you're going to want to reevaluate with your CPA, as an example. Mm-hmm. You know, I do financial planning. I don't do tax planning. I know just enough about taxes to be dangerous, mm-hmm. which is why we always tell people to talk to their accountant. But I do stay on top of all of this stuff because it's really important. A lot of my clients are small business owners. A lot of my clients do have high incomes, and these kinds of things will affect them. And we want to make sure that we're informed and giving prudent advice to them. Okay,
so now the website to check them out, it's blue.wealthmanagement.com. They do free consultations. The phone number to call direct, it's 480-256-2384. Okay, so the tax law is what everybody should be looking at. We're almost done with the segment. Any New Year's forecast that you want to tell them other than what we said earlier?
Yeah, and inflation is probably the one thing that I feel the most comfortable talking about. It's really hard to predict where the market is going to go. Last year, as an example, there were a whole range of predictions on where the market was going to go, but almost nobody predicted that it was going to go up, nearly 20%. So, my big focus for clients is allocating their portfolios in such a way as to take the least amount of risk to get the most amount of return. And if it's a good year in the market, that's great. And if it's not a good year in the market, then we're prepared, right? So, again, I hesitate to give a direction other than inflation and interest rates going up as well.
So again, but here we are at the new year, and there's so many people out there that they want to kind of know, but there is no real answer.
Really isn't. I wish there were. If I had that kind of crystal ball, Carol, you and I would be on an island hanging out.
Yeah, well, that would be kind of fun too. Yeah, but I want to say that there's so many people out there that don't think about this. They don't want to, and financial planning is really important. I know for me, I had to be my own just because, when I have a single mother and everything. But it's all about just starting, like you said. The journey starts with one foot.
It's 1 foot. It's a conversation, really. So much of what we do is getting to know our clients and getting to know what their hopes and dreams are all about, and then helping them allocate that money that they have saved and invested.
What do they need to have prepared when they sit down and they're going to come and talk to you? What would you like them to have?
Ideally, if we're talking about somebody that has an established portfolio, obviously we want to take a look at what they're holding, how much they're paying for what they're invested in. We want to take a look at life insurance and mortgages and all of those kinds of things. We'll drill down and really help identify all the things that people will need to bring. If they're just getting started, if it's young couples, if they're getting ready to have a baby, if it's they're getting married and they kind of want to start things off on the right foot, then again, it's just a conversation.
Now, again, you can call them direct. They do free consultations. Their number direct, it's 480-256-2384. The website is blue.wealthmanagement.com. On your website, do you have some information there that, kind of like you told me that you have a blog that you've been working on and things like that?
Yeah, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can link to my YouTube channel.
What's on your YouTube channel?
So it's I'm trying to make it fun because so much of the information that we have is dry and boring.
Not to these people, I'm telling you now.
So the YouTube channel has a lot of good information just about the basics on IRAs or Roth IRAs or life insurance or like what do you need for cash savings or what have you. We're getting there's a Halloween video because I love Halloween. It's one of my favorite holidays. We're going to be getting ready to do a Super Bowl ad because football season is winding down. So I'm going to steal a little bit from Wayne's World, and we're going to do like a kind of a parody of that.
How fun is that?
So yeah, we're just trying to have fun with delivering financial information in a fun way. My blog is getting underway. I've written a few posts last year. I'm going to get really more serious about writing this year.
Where do they go for your YouTube channel?
It's Blue Dot Wealth Management. Just if you go onto YouTube, Blue Dot Wealth Management, and you can click on any of the videos, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff.
All that good stuff. So again, that website is Blue Dot Wealth Management. You can go to the YouTube and check it out there. I'm going to go look at you on there too. And also, they do free consultations. It starts with it just starts with a conversation.
Yep.
That's all it is. And again, second set of eyes. It's really important as well. Anybody out there that might be looking to have somebody, if you haven't done it in a long time and it's old, you really have to make sure that it's up to snuff. You can give them a call direct. That number, it's 480-256-2384. Again, that website is blue.wealthmanagement.com. Well, it's a new year, and it's a new you for everybody out there. It's networking, and it's what it's all about. So have everybody on Facebook, like us, and do all that stuff. Follow us. Make sure that you call in here for anybody. Tell people about it. And maybe it's you. Maybe it's someone that you know that's listening to that. That's what I love about this show. It might be anyone. So check them out on their website. It's blue.wealthmanagement.com.
Across that line, if I traded it all, if I could